I'm not entirely sure how much talking I'm actually going to get done here because I haven't cycled in a while. I've had my latest surgery on December the 14th, and my staples are still in place. They're coming out on Friday, which is in 2 days from now. And I'm going to go up to 29th Street to Starbucks to have a chat with my friend Oliver. And I thought I'm going to take this opportunity to get back into the swing of things for a number of reasons. And I'll explain all that on the way. See if I can. I'm so sorry.
Like maybe she's just more organized.
Now, this is a site for sore eyes. 4 lifeguard huts right here. This is why I really need that front-facing camera to show everybody. And we can get to see them in my back here. These are all, well, they're not going on the scrappy, but they're kind of, they've been replaced by newer models which are built slightly further up the road there. We'll see if they're still in place. And yeah, they've been gracing South Beach for a number of years. I'd say maybe over 10. We first started coming here. There's a photo project I undertook in about, must have been 2005, 2006, or maybe even later than that. And we went all the way from South Point all the way up to, I believe, 60th Street, and we took a picture of. We hope to take a picture of every single beach hut along the way, and we didn't really know where they were, so it was kind of a bit of a struggle to do that in the heat. And I remember Julia only half-heartedly wanted to do it and rather do something else, and it was a lot of walking and a lot of getting sunburned involved. Nevertheless, it was a lot of fun, I thought. So partly the reason why I'm doing this today is because I've developed a really weird condition. Once they have the last surgery, just to quickly sum this up, was to reconnect my ileostomy back to my colon. And that was a very joyous occasion. It was classed as a small procedure, which of course it wasn't. It was small enough for them not to give me any painkillers, which is kind of weird. But yeah, they did that. and I literally had to beg for tramadol or for any kind of painkiller, really. And nevertheless, I was discharged successfully, and that of course meant a big change in my dietary habits again, and in the way my body reacts to things. And one of the things that was the problem when I had my ileostomy is that I couldn't hold on to much liquid. So I felt constantly dehydrated to the point where I had literal muscle spasms, or the threat of muscle spasms all the time, because my body just couldn't hold on to sodium. And I had low sodium values. The BUN levels had decreased a little, which was very nice, but the creatinine levels were still up, and especially right after the surgery they had spiked to 2.1, and that of course had everyone alarmed a little bit. And that means for the nurses, it means we need to add a vast amount of intravenous liquids, because you've got low blood pressure and you need to drink. And I said, yeah, I'm drinking lots. It's just that while I had my ileostomy, it was just constantly flushed out. So that was one of the issues. But as soon as I had been reconnected, it was kind of magic to see that my creatinine levels had literally dropped from an elevated level, which it was a tendency we had seen since February 2016, and out of a sudden they literally had dropped to 1.0 within a matter of days, and that was totally cool to see. Yeah, this is the area coming up right here on the right where those new beach huts are being built now, no longer, well, not entirely, but now no longer made out of wood so much, but out of aluminium and other metals, so to give them, I guess, another 10 years of life on top of what the other ones were deemed to be safe as, I guess. It was actually the second or third time that we saw them being built here live on South Beach, and the other ones are usually auctioned off. So for a limited time you can put your bids in, and they're going for about anywhere between $200 and $2,000. And if you have the space in your garden, you can grace said garden with an authentic ex-Miami Beach Lifeguard Tower, if you so desire. And that's kind of a very exciting idea. I mean, if I had the space, I would have bought several. They're such iconic things. And the new ones are still very colorful, but they're not. I guess they're inspired by the originals, but they're not the originals. You know, they had a certain charm and flair, and of course they've been here for so long. We know which one was where, and each one was seriously unique and individual in regards to color scheme and shape, and that's kind of been rationalized away a little bit. That's the signs of the times, I guess. So this time around we only had about 4 or 5 designs, and they built several of each design, and I guess then they gave them a different color scheme, and over the years that color scheme is going to fade, or at least that's the idea. And then, we'll see. So, but creatinine levels are good. Everything else is kind of also good after the reconnection. I feel really I feel great so far. So that's fantastic. But of course, there's a lot of healing involved that needs to happen in my body, and I'm kind of dealing with that right now. So every day is a little different in regards to energy levels. I'm currently getting about 1,500 calories, which I meticulously track as well, which is important, so that I have an overview of what I eat and what works for me and what doesn't.
And it's a
I still have that new food relationship going. Which is good. I'm getting more used to what my body likes and what he dislikes, and I'm trying to adhere to that as much as is possible, and I think I'm successful so far. Now, of course, the added challenge is that I'm now going to find out what happens to the whole GI tract thing now that the two are back and connected again. And at the same time, my colon needs to get back into processing solid foods, which he hasn't done for over 6 months. So that's kind of new for him and for me. It's also new to find that the actual healing process is set to take about 6 months or longer. And as part of the reconnection, my surgeon had used a mixture of tiny titanium staples as well as self-dissolving suture. So the suture will disappear over time, much like the suture in my bladder is disappearing. And the staples, however, are going to stay in place, and the tissue is going to grow around it. It's kind of interesting to think about that. I will keep those in forever, and how many of those I have is well, it's kind of a frightening thing to think about. I mean, they're not going to set anything off at the airport, which I must admit I haven't tried yet. I haven't tried flying yet. But yeah, so that's what happens. And considering that I've had several of these attachments and stitches in other parts of my colon before, going back all the way to February 2016, of course, where my colon has already been chopped and reassembled in several parts, I will have a lot of those titanium staples in place. So, phenomenal thought. So the connection is good from the get-go, he says.
Oh shit!
But really, for it to all heal completely will take several months. So, but apart from it going really well, there's one thing that's just unexpected, and that is the fact that I have developed this weird water retention thing, and that is something that was kind of unexpected. So we have dealing with something I suppose the medical field would call edema, and that is water retention in your ankles and in your hands and literally anywhere in your tissue. And there are areas in which you can see it better and areas in which you can kind of feel it, and depending on how much is in it, it may easily be mistaken for just standard fat and muscle weight gain, which is what I had made. I made that same mistake in July, when I seemed to be gaining 2 pounds a week, and that of course was not fat buildup or muscle buildup. That was just water retention, and it kind of happened out of the blue, and it's been getting more and more for me over the last few days, and I really don't know how to get rid of it. But one of the things they said is that maybe, when I say they, I mean the internet, it's not the doctors. I've not discussed this with the doctors yet. Which of course I must do, and I will do. So one thing they were suggesting is lower your sodium intake, which I've already done. I don't no longer have that strong salt craving that I have had for the last month or two before the reconnection happened. I was always craving salt, vast amounts of salt in fact, and that craving's gone away, so that's an interesting one. And then I will have to finish my story before I get off here at Starbuck. So give me a second while I retrace that route here. Yeah, so in order to get rid of that, decrease your sodium intake. Okay, got it, done. But also increase your potassium intake. So there is a possibility that my potassium is just low, and that is something that's not so good. So the idea is decrease sodium, increase potassium, and then literally just see what happens. And in addition to that, a very good idea is of course to start exercising again. And biking is something that I used to do regularly, and because of having to heal, it is also something that I had to give up for a little bit. And I'm hoping that by starting that up again, it will, I will hopefully lose some of that extra water in my ankles. And that's what this exercise is about for me. And I don't mind telling you, it doesn't actually feel like exercise at all. being on my bike like this, at this pace, that it's always been nicer to do this than to walk, for example, at least for me. And yeah, it's just very nice. I'm now here, which is cool. But considering the fact that I've been away from biking, and I don't find this to be a major challenge here, that is a great sign. Ooh, they're also done with that construction site, so I can now cross the road like a normal vehicle would do. And find a sunny spot outside Starbucks and have a chat with Oliver, who's been practicing in his new drum room in Ileostomy. Alright, let's do this thing. Hobos have disappeared from view, which is great. See if the framing is every bit as interesting as it was on the way in. If indeed it was interesting on the way in, I don't know. I haven't reviewed the footage, so we'll find out.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's return these bikes right now. I don't think I could.
And of course, one other thing that we mustn't forget is the reason why we're cycling here is because we want to get rid of water in my legs. Very important. But then I've discovered before my many surgeries, which is why I'm kind of glad that I'm back on the bike here. I've discovered that just talking like that into the camera is very therapeutic. And I thought at first it's going to make an amazing web series. In part because of the very interesting background that seems to be drifting past me, and the fact that it is kind of interesting to hear just random ramblings by somebody ongoingly that you love and trust. It is also something, I must say, that helps me perhaps to get over this trauma that I've just survived. So one of the things Oliver and I were discussing is how are you doing, basically, and that's really difficult for me to describe right now because I'm in a really weird spot. On one hand, a very successful, very happy spot in which I finally, for better or worse description here, I finally crossed the finish line. It feels like I finally crossed it. The finish line that happened after a very long marathon that I've been running for the last 3 years, and the finish line was almost always within reach, and it felt like the last surgery was finally the one the one last thing that I had to do in order to that was the last hurdle, and I finally crossed it. Anything beforehand was always, we're so nearly there, we almost have it, we're almost there. So the first surgery in October was like, we're nearly there, there's only one more to go, and then you recover and you kind of get settled into life with an ileostomy, and then you're waiting, you're not quite there, but you know that it's more like a formality. And then that next surgery did happen. It happened successfully, and it's now over. And you think, okay, now there's a little bit more recovery to go, but technically that was it, right? Or was it? Because was that it? Are we done? Well, almost. It's just a little bit more recovery. Okay, great. So on Friday, how about Friday? The staples are going to be removed. Is that it then? Well, almost. You're very nearly there. You're literally, all you got to do now is recover and discover what it's like living with a reconnected colon again. Because woohoo, I'm now. He's not gone bagless, which is nice. And you think, yeah, that's awesome. So was that it? Well, nearly. We just need to recover, and there's a few more doctor follow-up visits. One of which is, of course, with the colon surgeon. One of them is with the oncologist, where we're going to have one more CT scan just beforehand. Oh, and then we need to see the nephrologist just one more time to see if the kidney functions are indeed back to normal. And then we're going to have that follow-up with that nice Dr. De Leon, which is just a follow-up. And do you think so? Is any of these events actually marking the very end of this? Have we already crossed the finish line, or is there going to be an official, ceremony / certificate where someone says, "Look, it appears that you've made it. Congratulations. Now pick up the pieces of your life and move on"? Or is that never going to happen? Or has that already happened 6 months ago? Because it may be that has already happened, and after the first surgery there on the 19th of October, literally once we've spoken to Dr. Zomstein and Dr. Casso, and was that perhaps the finish line that we've already crossed when the message came in, "Oh my God, you are completely cancer-free"? It's a bizarre one. It's basically, I don't know what's the answer. And while on one hand I'm thinking it would be nice to officially know that it is over, the question does remain, is it actually ever over? Because even if someone were to say, well, for now it appears that it all is over, are we not just waiting now for the cancer to return? And if it does not do that, then awesome. But aren't we basically all in a waiting position now, and kind of waiting forever? And if it never comes, then it never comes, and that's totally awesome. So I think the question is now, will there ever be an official finish line, or is that something that doesn't really exist? And I wish it was there, and I'm the one who's gonna have to say, you know what, for me it is finished. And I will, for me, decide that is the end of it. It's an interesting one. So it's kind of that's why this period is yet again weird for me, because it is on one hand a big black hole that is interesting to explore, because it is up to me what I do with it now. How long do I want to give my recovery? How long do I give it before I say I'm ready to do something like along the lines of a job? When do I feel fit enough to do that? No problem. So yeah, those are the big questions. Those are the big questions for me right now. And like I keep saying to Oliver, what every story has in common these days, and what every attractive story, every fascinating story as it's being told right now has in common, is the authenticity that it provides. What makes things attractive is this how much is it you, and how much do you make it, and how much do you get out of it by making it 100% yours, and what is it that it makes it yours? That's like that for everyone. We talked about sidemen in the music business, and that the harsh reality is indeed that they don't really get to be told when the project is over. So he gave this example of a drummer called Liberty DeVito, and he used to be Billy Joel's drummer for 30 years, and Billy Joel decided to go on tour again after his very many issues over the very many years, and he decided to do so with a different band, which is of course within his rights, and but he didn't tell the previous band, which is of course within his rights. But the harsh reality, even at that level of playing, is that sidemen that have been loyal to something along the lines of a master for as long as this dude has, out of a sudden get told by friends, hey, I've seen Billy Joel's in Atlanta again with the band, I'm sure you're with it, do you want to meet up for beers? And he's having to say on the phone, Atlantic City, sorry, that's the first I hear of it, because I appear to be no longer in that band project, and sorry, dude. Looks like Billy is playing. I didn't know anything about it, but I'm certainly not going to be joining him in Atlantic City. So no, we can't meet up for beers. And what do you do about that? It's a tricky one. And I suppose it rings true for me because I've just read David Suchet's book, Poirot and I, and he's having similar experiences, or he's had similar experiences over 25 years of playing Hercule Poirot on TV very successfully, and he's invested a great deal of his life into playing this role to perfection. And he did a phenomenal job at it. But of course, he was always at the peril of the production company that could have at any point pulled the plug in the production of the project. So there was never any guarantee for him that this was going to carry on. I mean, he had a wish to play every story that Dame Agatha has ever written about Poirot, as Poirot. And in the end, it was granted, which is why that is such a fascinating story. And the book is well worth the read, for sure, with fascinating anecdotes about his whole career and the whole filming of the series over the years. But the very harsh reality was that he really had to remain true to himself in order not to lose the plot over such a long time. And he had to make decisions that meant, well, no matter if they're going to shoot another series of Poirot or not, I still have to make a living as an actor. I still want to be an actor, so I'm going to have to take on projects no matter if they're going to ask me, hey, do you want to do another Poirot, and is this going to fit in with your plans? So he'd always have to say, well, obviously I'm going to try and keep all that time free here, but at the same time, it is a freelance world, so I have to take on other jobs, not because I have to make a living. I mean, there is that, but also because I want to, I want to do this. I want to play other parts. I want to play other roles. So I can't just sit around and wait for them to ask me to play the little Belgian again, because life goes on, and that's my situation at the moment as well. Life goes on. I no longer have cancer, and I'm going to have to make that decision if I want to. How much energy do I want to give that illness? Do I want to give it the energy to say, thanks? Do I want to give it the energy to say, it will be part of my life going forward forever, and I will be waiting for you for your return, because genetically I know you're in me? Or shall I ignore it and do my thing? Which also means, how much do I want to immerse myself into writing down how much of that how much do I want to immerse myself in the fact that I've survived it? Was surviving it enough to say, I want to focus on having done that, and I want to dedicate a great portion or even the rest of my life in how that happened and how that successfully happened, and write about it, tell people about it, and make that a portion of my life. So rather than talk about the illness, talk about how the healing was and make that my journey going forward. Or do I want to say, hey, I'd rather stick with the shards of my life and pick those up and poke them together again and start a new life in which having survived cancer is part of it, but it's not something I want to greatly think about going forward. Or can I combine the two? What is my reality? What do I want to do? And I think that is something that I might have to give a great deal of thought to. So Oliver's input on that was it will probably show. I mean, no one and nothing is forcing me to write about it. If it flows, it flows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it does flow sometimes. It also does not flow at other times. And I think perhaps talking about this will help me. I mean, I had this feeling already that it would do that. And I've basically, now that I can go back on my bike, I can carve out a nice route that allows me the time to chat about this dilemma going forward. So literally with the self-therapeutically as planned. It's actually still the same plan. I don't know why I hesitated so much to do that. It is still the same plan to say, well, let's explore this with myself here on the bike. And see where we go from here. So I'm back home. I do feel that 22 minutes is not enough time to explore this. So going forward, I'm going to lead a longer route, Roy. Thanks for listening.